The film begins with a gripping moment as John Kramer undergoes an MRI scan in a hospital, capturing the gravity of his situation. The narrative then shifts to him participating in a support group, shedding light on the challenges he faces in the midst of his battle with illness. In a heart-wrenching turn, John's doctor delivers the devastating news that his advanced brain cancer has left him with only a few months to live. Alongside this grim prognosis, the doctor advises John to retire from his work, emphasizing the gravity of the situation and the limited time he has left. During his time at the hospital, John becomes a witness to a custodian who is rifling through the personal belongings of an elderly patient. This sparks a creative vision in John's mind, leading him to devise a sinister trap for the custodian. In this chilling contraption, two vacuum devices are menacingly connected to the custodian's eyes, while another apparatus is affixed to his right hand, intricately linked to his fingers. The custodian is faced with a grim dilemma. He must prevent the vacuum traps from sucking out his eyes. However, every move he makes results in the painful breaking of one of his fingers. Struggling against the trap, he reaches the brink of surrender, seemingly resigning to his fate. But in a twist of reality, the custodian notices John's vigilant gaze fixed upon him. This moment of revelation prompts him to abandon his intrusive act on the elderly patient's belongings, choosing to heed the warning conveyed by John's watchful eyes. Later on, John encounters Henry Kessler, a fellow member of his support group, who had claimed to have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. To John's surprise, Henry reveals a surgical scar and shares an extraordinary story. He underwent a groundbreaking experimental procedure that successfully cured him of his disease. Intrigued, John learns from Henry about Dr. Finn Pedersen, the pioneering mind behind this revolutionary treatment. Driven by newfound hope, John decides to reach out to Dr. Pedersen's daughter, Cecilia. She provides him with valuable information, guiding him towards a clinic established by her in Mexico. This revelation opens a door of possibilities for John, leading him on a journey fueled by the promise of a potential cure. In Mexico, John embarks on his journey of hope and healing. Arriving in a bustling city, he encounters a friendly cab driver named Diego. However, their journey is abruptly interrupted when a van screeches to a halt and two armed men compel John to step out. Unfazed, John reveals his identity, leading them to escort him to the clinic, an impressive structure resembling a grand mansion. Inside, he encounters a young woman named Gabriela, a living testament to the success of Cecilia's treatment. Gabriela shares her inspiring story of being cured, further fueling John's optimism. Soon after, he has the privilege of meeting Cecilia in person. She warmly welcomes him and guides him through the intricacies of the operation. Along the way, he is introduced to her capable assistants, Mateo and Valentina, who are integral to the transformative process that awaits him. On the eve of his operation, John wakes to find a young neighbor named Carlos grappling with a broken bike. Filled with kindness, John extends a helping hand, offering genuine warmth and assistance to the boy. The following day, John undergoes the procedure, with Cecilia explaining that he might drift in and out of consciousness. The surgery seemingly progresses without a hitch, leaving John hopeful about the future. He expresses his intention to provide the remainder of the payment to Cecilia later, grateful for the chance at a new life. However, as John prepares to leave, he stops by a liquor store to purchase a bottle of tequila as a token of appreciation for Gabriela. When he returns to the clinic, an unsettling emptiness awaits him. The facility is eerily deserted. Venturing to the very room where the operation transpired, John discovers a shocking truth. The entire procedure was a sham, a cruel ruse to strip him of his money, and they never actually operated on him. Brimming with anger and betrayal, John smashes the bottle, the shards echoing his shattered trust. As he grapples with the enormity of the deceit, he reaches out to one of his trusted contacts, setting in motion a plan for a reckoning filled with vengeance and justice. In his quest for justice, John tracks down Diego, the imposter who posed as the doctor during the sham surgery. Swiftly, John ensnares him in a sinister trap where his very life hangs in the balance. Diego is forced to cut out 2 pipe bombs wired into his own arms, a task both excruciating and terrifying. Through sheer determination, Diego manages to remove the bombs just in time, narrowly escaping the explosive fate that awaited him. Impressed by his survival, John congratulates him before extracting the crucial information he seeks. Beyond their deceptive facade, the lives of the other culprits unravel. Valentina, one of the conspirators, finds herself in a dangerous situation when a deceitful encounter almost turns into a nightmare. Amanda Young, disguised in her unsettling pig mask, intervenes just in time, incapacitating the would-be attacker and abducting Valentina for her role in the scam. Meanwhile, Gabriella, once a symbol of hope, is revealed to be ensnared in the grip of addiction, with Mateo as her drug dealer. Their lives take a sudden turn as they are subdued and taken captive. Lastly, Cecilia, the mastermind behind the deception, is not spared from the consequences of her actions. In the supposed safety of her home, she becomes the target of an intruder. Despite her efforts to escape, she is captured, her own schemes finally catching up with her. The web of deceit tightens around them all, as each one faces the consequences of their choices. In a chilling turn of events, the 4 deceitful individuals awaken to find themselves confined in a room, their freedom stripped away. John and Amanda emerge from the shadows, ready to confront them about their heartless scam, preying on the desperation of dozens of dying people who entrusted them with their lives and possessions. Cecilia, the mastermind, attempts to manipulate the situation, feebly insisting that John's case was somehow different. But John sees through her facade, recognizing her deceit. With a steely resolve, he begins his twisted game of retribution. Valentina finds herself ensnared in a horrifying trap. A wire saw dangles menacingly in front of her neck, while a box containing a jiggly saw lies nearby. The cruel instructions are clear. She must amputate her own right leg and extract enough bone marrow within 3 minutes to secure her release. Driven by fear and desperation, Valentina, despite the excruciating pain, begins the gruesome task. She saws through her own leg and starts extracting the marrow, but time proves merciless. The cup remains unfilled, and in a shocking moment, her life ends tragically with decapitation, a brutal consequence of her actions. Amidst the grim aftermath, the remaining 3 survivors spot a phone placed on a card in the middle of the room. With morbid determination, Cecilia cuts into Valentina's corpse, using her intestines as an improvised rope to drag the cart closer. As Cecilia attempts to call for help, Amanda intervenes, striking her and seizing the phone for herself. Outside the room, an enraged patient named Parker Sears, whom John had encountered after a previous fraudulent operation, arrives brandishing a gun, demanding Cecilia return his stolen money. Amanda swiftly subdues him, rendering him unconscious and confiscating his weapon. In a tense moment, John steps in, offering a precarious deal. He can help Parker retrieve his money, but only if he agrees to play by their rules. The stage is set for a high-stakes game where every move could mean the difference between life and death. In the grim progression of their deadly game, Amanda's sympathy spares Gabriella momentarily, allowing Mateo to become the next victim. His horrifying challenge involves cutting brain matter from his own head and dissolving it in a jar of enzymes. The key to his freedom lies in waiting for the matter to fully dissolve. Despite the excruciating pain, Mateo courageously attempts the gruesome task. Sadly, time slips away from him, and his efforts are in vain. A merciless mask clamps shut around his head, sealing his fate in a blaze of searing agony. With a heavy heart, the spotlight shifts to Gabriella, whose trap is as horrifying as it is gruesome. Suspended from the ceiling by one arm and one leg, she faces a chilling ultimatum. To escape the impending threat of a radiation machine that would burn her alive, Gabriella must make a harrowing choice. Shatter her own limbs with a sledgehammer to gain her freedom. Reluctantly, she summons the strength to break the bones in her hand and foot, setting herself free, but not without enduring severe burns that mar her face permanently. The room echoes with the sounds of her pain and determination, a testament to her unyielding will to survive. In a perilous turn of events, John and Amanda unwittingly release Parker, only to realize that he's been working in collusion with Cecilia as her lover. Cecilia had orchestrated her rescue by calling Parker on the phone, and now he holds John and Amanda at gunpoint, forcing them to chain themselves up. John's plea to get Gabriella the medical attention she desperately needs is met with cold indifference from Cecilia. Without hesitation, she ruthlessly steps on Gabriella's neck, breaking it to eliminate any potential loose ends. In a cruel twist, she also taunts John by revealing her knowledge of his true identity as Jigsaw, highlighting the irony of a serial killer seeking to punish her. Amidst this escalating horror, young Carlos, the innocent neighbor boy, is unwittingly drawn into the nightmare. He is chained up on a seesaw trap with John, and John speaks to him in Spanish, urging him not to pull the lever. However, Cecilia and Parker, callously indifferent, activate the trap, subjecting both John and Carlos to a gruesome form of waterboarding with blood. John, in a desperate move, pulls his lever to ensure that he alone is subjected to the bloodbath. As Cecilia and Parker head back to the office to retrieve their money, they unknowingly set off a timer for 10 minutes. The familiar tune of Hello Zepp begins to play, signaling a dramatic twist as John and Carlos's trap is unexpectedly deactivated. The game is far from over, and the final act of this macabre ordeal is about to unfold. In a chilling revelation, flashbacks unveil that John had been one step ahead all along. He had known that Parker was part of Cecilia's scam, preparing for his arrival with Amanda. The bag they had sought contained incriminating documents, evidence of Cecilia's fraudulent activities. As the room fills with deadly poison gas, panic ensues. Cecilia and Parker, now trapped together, fight desperately for air. The gas sears their skin, intensifying their struggle for survival. In a desperate bid to save herself, Cecilia succumbs to her darkest instincts and fatally stabs Parker, just as John and Amanda had warned him. In a gesture of redemption, John hands over all the money they recovered from Cecilia's ill-gotten gains to Carlos, ensuring that he is no longer a victim, but instead emerges from this nightmarish experience with a newfound chance at life. Outside the room, morning light breaks, signaling the end of the harrowing night. With the ordeal finally over, John and Amanda guide Carlos to safety. As the credits roll, a bone-chilling scene unfolds. John, with the assistance of Detective Mark Hoffman, has successfully tracked down Henry, whom he suspects of being complicit in the scam. Observing that Henry no longer bears his fake surgical scar, John ominously declares, "I want to play a game." With a cruel twist, he activates a vicious trap on Henry's body, one that will cut into his stomach. In a state of utter terror and despair, Henry can only scream, realizing that he is now ensnared in one of Jigsaw's horrifying games. I hope you enjoyed the movie recap. If you found it entertaining, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing for more content.